Learning Initiatives and Open Educational Resources Librarian, and I'm here to talk to you today about open access. Has anybody here heard of open access before? Okay, so a couple of people. This is a weirdly large turnout. I'm very happy. All right, so before we can talk about what open access is, we need to talk a little bit about the current research cycle. So here's the beginning of the research cycle. Universities hire people, faculty, full-time researchers. They pay those people do research. Then those researchers, when they have finished their research, or at least reached a reasonable midpoint in their research, they write some articles about the research that they have done. Those are the same articles that you get access to through the library. Then what do they do with those articles that they have written? They send them into journals. The journals publish them. An important part of that process, though, is that the researchers take the copyrights from their journals and they sell those copyrights to the journals. So the researcher gets some prestige, they get some recognition, but they no longer own those articles that they have written. And then, when you all want access to those articles, right, to do research for your classes, universities, and specifically universities' libraries, pay to get access to those journals that contain those articles. Does anybody see a problem with this?
You're paying twice.
Excellent. We are, in fact, paying twice. The universities are paying for the research to be done, and then the universities are paying for access to the research that has been done, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Right?
Yes.
So, as an example, we here, last fiscal year, we spent more than $600,000 for you guys to have access to research articles and other library materials. Some of that money came out of your tuition. You should be upset, right? So you're paying for access to research that was done in part by your professors that you're paying to do research and also educate you, but also do research. So, open access says, this is a silly model. We should try something else. Something that results in research being, or at least the results of research being, free to you and to everyone else. So, here's the current model. This is the part of the model that's problematic, right? Where the researchers sell their copyrights to journals because journals own the copyrights and they can do whatever they want with them. I mean, within reason. People do sign contracts, but they can do mostly whatever they want with them. So, first type of open access is what we call green open access. What that means, the researcher does still sell their copyright to the journal. However, when they sign a contract with the journal, they include a provision that says, but I can also put a copy of this article in my institution's repository. We have a repository here. It is called the FHSU's Scholars Repository. If any of you are involved in the undergraduate research experience, some of your work may go into the repository. A lot of institutions nowadays have repositories. It's very popular. And repositories are open access. You can access the things in them for free. However, there's a little bit of fine print that sometimes goes with green open access. First of all, the version of the article that goes in the repository might not actually be the same version of the article that gets published in the journal. So who here has downloaded or looked at a PDF copy of a journal article in one of the library's databases? Looks like a lot of you. And you know that they look very pretty, right? They have a big logo at the top, and they have, you know, the researcher's bio at the bottom, and they're nicely formatted, and they have page numbers, that sort of thing. That is the published version of the article. However, the version of the article that goes in the repository is sometimes not the published version of the article. It can be either what we call a preprint, which is the version of the article that the author sent in to the journal before it got edited and before it got peer reviewed. Does anybody know what peer review is? It's like a few of you. I will enlighten you. So, Scholarly journals are sort of like magazines in that they get published periodically. That's why we call them periodicals. However, unlike scholarly journals, the articles, unlike magazines, the articles in scholarly journals are not published by researchers, or what am I trying to say? Magazines. In magazines, the articles are published by reporters and journalists. Written by reporters and journalists. In journal articles, the articles are in, I don't know where my brain is at. In scholarly journals, the articles are written by researchers and faculty for an audience of other researchers and faculty, not for the general public. And as part of making sure that scholarly journals have high quality content, the articles go through what we call a peer review process. What does that mean? It means when an article gets sent into the journal, the editor will pick at least 2 other people who are in that same field to do that same kind of research, and they will send that article to those people, and those people will provide feedback, expert feedback, saying, this is a good article, it ought to be published, it has high quality information, however, we think that these few edits should be made before it's published. So, if you're reading a preprint, it has not yet gone through that peer review process. Some of those edits might not have been made, so the article is probably quite similar to what got published, but maybe the quality is slightly lower. There's also something called a postprint, which is when the article has gone through the peer review process, but it hasn't been edited for style yet. It hasn't been arranged prettily on the page, so the text is there, the formatting is not there. That is green open access. Any questions about green open access? Okay, good. The other type of open access, we dispense with this altogether. The authors, the researchers, they do not sell their copyrights to journals. Instead, they make an agreement with the journal, and that agreement says, we want to provide this article to everyone for free. And that's great, right? But unfortunately, publishing still costs something. So, a lot, not all, but a lot of open access journals have something that are called article processing charges, or APCs, which means that when that publication agreement is made, the author has to pay something for that article to be published open access. Does that make sense? Okay. So, green open access, gold open access. Any questions about the differences there? So, gold open access. The article is usually published under what we call a Creative Commons license. If any of you came to my Open Educational Resources talk maybe a month ago, you already know what Creative Commons licenses are. Does anybody happen to already know what Creative Commons licenses are? One person. Okay. So, when an author writes something, when you write something, you automatically have the copyright. You have the exclusive right to copy that work. You have the exclusive right to send out copies of that work to other people. You have the exclusive right to remix it into something else. You have the exclusive right to perform it in public. If it's something that's performable, like say you could read a paper out loud, you have a lot of rights as an author. However, you might decide that you want to share your work and you want to give up some of those rights voluntarily so that your work could be available for free. So, you can publish under what is called a Creative Commons license. These are all the Creative Commons licenses over here on the left, all the way from CC0 at the top. CC0 means you release all of your copyrights. Anyone can do whatever they like with your work. And then there are a bunch of Creative Commons licenses. And then all the way at the bottom are traditional copyright, where you retain all of your rights, all rights reserved, and nobody can do anything with your work without specifically asking you for permission. And when we talk about things being open, we talk about what we call the 5 R's across the top. If a work is truly completely open, you can retain it, as in you can keep a copy, you can reuse it, you can revise it, you can remix it, and you can redistribute it to other people. When you put a Creative Commons license on your work, you are deciding to what degree you want to allow people to do all of these things. So this looks really complicated, right? It's a giant chart. It's kind of intimidating. However, Creative Commons licenses are actually really easy to read because you only have to know 4 things. You only have to know these 4 icons that are circled in red. This one here, little guy in a circle, that is the attribution license. It means you can do whatever you want with that work within the terms of the license as long as you provide credits to the original author. The little circular arrow, that is the share alike mark. That means you can do whatever you like within the terms of the license, as long as if you post that work somewhere else, like say on your website, or you send a copy to your friend, or you remix it and repost it somewhere else, you have to share it under the same license that it came to you. So if it came to you under an attribution share alike license, you need to republish it under an attribution share alike license, giving credit to the author and publishing it under the same license that it came to you. Little $sign in a circle means non-commercial. You can't sell it, you can't make money off of it. And then this last sign, the equals in a circle, that is the no derivative marks. It means you can use it within the terms of the license, but you can't adapt it at all. Any questions about that? I know I went through that very quickly. Okay, so quick recap. Does anybody want to tell me what the little guy in a circle is?
Attribution.
Attribution, what does it mean?
You can use it, but you have to give credit to who did it.
Okay. The second one, the little circular arrow, does anybody remember what that means? Do you want to tell us what it means, since you said you were already familiar with Creative Commons licenses?
I think it's reuse, isn't it? No.
It's a share one, right?
Excellent. It is, in fact, share alike. It is labeled with an SA, which I have unfortunately slightly covered up with my circles. But it means you have to share it under the same license that it came to you. Can anybody tell me what the little $sign means?
No making money.
Excellent. No making money. You cannot sell it. And finally, the little equal sign. Can anybody tell me what that means?
You can't alter it.
You cannot alter it. No derivatives. Excellent. Okay. So, when something gets published gold open access, in other words, it gets published in an open access journal where the publisher and the author agree that it should be made available for free. It's usually published under one of these Creative Commons licenses. So now when you see one of these, you will know what it means. So you may be asking yourself, this is great, but why should I care? And there are several reasons for that. One of them, of course, is the reason that I already told you, which is that your tuition is going to the university, and the university is paying twice for the scholarship. They're paying for the scholarship to be created, and they're paying for the scholarship to be purchased back by the library. So you are paying twice. You should be upset. I know I'm upset. But another reason that you should maybe care is because we are a small library. We have a limited number of databases. It might not feel that way to you, but if you have ever done any research in our databases and you have found an article that you couldn't get access to, it's kind of frustrating, right? You can request it via interlibrary loan. It takes usually at least a couple of days. You have to wait. It's kind of annoying. So, if you know where to look for open access articles, you can broaden your search when you're doing research. You can maybe find open access versions of articles that you have found indexed, in other words, described in one of our databases, but that you couldn't get the full text to. There are a couple of places to find those articles that I'm going to share with you. The first one is called the Digital Commons Network. It is a network of scholarly repositories that are green open access. In other words, they contain those preprints or postprints that the publishing agreements say that the author is allowed to put in their institutional repository. We are a member of the Digital Commons Network. Our repository is part of that, and if you go to the Digital Commons Network, which we are going to do now, just as soon as I fix this, there we go. Which we are going to do now, looks like this, which is the picture that I just showed you. It will tell you how many works it has in each sort of subject area. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I wasn't expecting quite so many people. So here in law, it tells us we have 338,000 works, approximately. It's a pretty big database, just of law things. Within each category, you can narrow down further to subcategories. However, if we do a search in the comments, say we do a search on elephants. I always like searching for elephants. It's one of my favorite things to search for. And I'm not joking. You've gotten a lot of results here, and it seems like very few of them are about elephants. Do any of these look like they're about elephants to you? No. Okay, so Digital Commons Network is great in that it does have a lot of scholarship. However, it does not have the best search tool. So I recommend that if you search it, you maybe narrow down your search a little bit into these categories first. So for instance, if I go to life sciences, very fancy animation, and then within life sciences, I explore animal sciences. And then within animal sciences, I go to zoology. And then I search for elephants. I should actually get a few more things that are actually about elephants. So, Digital Commons Network, great, large, open access, terrible search tools. You should use it anyway. Yes? Yes. Okay. Now the other open access repository that I want to share with you is DOAJ, the Directory of Open Access Journals. These are gold open access. In other words, these are journals that agree with their authors. They are going to publish things under those Creative Commons licenses and make them available for free. We love open access journals because they maintain the same quality. They're usually peer-reviewed, just as non-open access journals. And you're not looking at preprints and postprints here. You're looking at the final product. So here is the Directory of Open Access Journals. You can search for journals. I recommend that you only really search for articles unless there's some specific topic that you want to read a lot of articles on, and then maybe you might want to find a journal on that topic. But if we search for elephants here, we will actually get some decent things about elephants. And this database does have some good filters down the side, like subjects or year of publication, that you might see in some of the databases that we subscribe to. Any questions about either of those? Any questions about open access in general?
Why would you want to use one over the other? Like I understand the other one, like you have to really narrow your search to get anywhere. And this one, it seems like you can just do a general search and get topics. What would be the advantages of using the other thing that you would compare to this?
They contain different content. So if you searched here in the Directory of Open Access Journals first, and you didn't find anything, you might try going to the Digital Commons Network and searching there, because it's going to be different content. The content here is published only in open access journals. The content in the Digital Commons Network is going to be published in traditional journals, traditionally copyrighted journals, but it's going to be the version of the article that was before the final version. So a slightly older version, you can get access to more materials there, basically. Like say if you found an article in one of our databases, but you couldn't get access to it, you might check both of these to see if you could find it. Other questions about open access?
In terms of filtering on this database, like it's listed by year, but say you wanted a year range or anything, do you just, in this case, is there a way to just enter a year scale, or would you need to click all those for each search?
I believe it has an advanced search option,
Okay.
which does not seem to be any different. So I guess you would go year by year. Okay. It is free, so that's nice, right? Other questions about open access? All right, great. So, open access, not limited to just journal articles. I know I've been talking a lot about journal articles. It's what we do here in the library. We like to talk about journal articles. But there are many things on the internet that are open access that are not journal articles, like open educational resources, like open textbooks, which I talked about the last time I was up here, and like resources like Wikipedia. How many of you have used Wikipedia? What? Surely more of you than that have used Wikipedia. How many of you like Wikipedia? Okay, some of you like Wikipedia. All right, so in the interest of supporting open access today, it is Open Access Week this week. Libraries across the country, across the world, are supporting open access, and we are too. So in the interest of supporting open access, we are going to do a Wikipedia edit-a-thon, which means we are going to adjourn to the computer lab, and we are going to edit some Wikipedia articles. If you're saying, I don't know anything, and I can't edit a Wikipedia article, I have no knowledge to add to that, that is incorrect. The reason that this is a Times Talk is because it is sponsored by the New York Times, and we have come up with for you a list of New York Times articles and related Wikipedia articles, so that if you know nothing about a subject, you can read the New York Times article. You can then go to Wikipedia and edit the article with the information in the New York Times article, so you will know something, you can write about it, you can contribute to open access. If you would like to do that, we are going to adjourn to the computer lab just as soon as Whitney does her drawing.
We can do that at the end.
We can do it at the end. All right, we will do it at the end. So, if you would like to go to the computer lab with us, get your things together,